Hey there, Ride the Car Guy here, and today I think it's finally time to call this project done. As you can see, 8-Ball is back in one piece. I've done a few things over these past couple weeks. As you may or may not be able to tell, it's 2 inches higher. I went through and I swapped out the suspension from my other Xterra, and I took the 2-inch All Dogs Off-Road suspension from there, and I moved it over here. The job was kind of an absolute bear. It was a lot of effort. For some reason, it didn't occur to me that taking a suspension off of one Xterra and putting on another is just literally doing 2 full suspension jobs, but made it through and it swapped out. You'll see we have a lot more clearance here now for our incoming tires and rims. Speaking of tires and rims, well, we have a new set coming from none other than Duncan at Nissan Parts Puller. I've been looking all over Facebook for some used rims and tires, and when I told Duncan about what I was doing, he said, hey, I have a set right here if you want it. So super pumped about that. We have them coming in the next couple weeks. They're already mounted on these exact rims, which is awesome. And they're 285 75/16s, which, as you know, the community knows, is pretty much the biggest size you should be putting on here without a dramatic lift. I'll send some update pics when that finally happens. I've also clearly worked on the plastics. So if you recall, this thing looked absolutely awful. I went through and I sanded everything down, and I did the same bed liner that I used on my other Xterra. I did that job, I think, close to 2 years ago now, and it has held up wonderfully. So I decided to do the same exact process on here. I think this bumper is too far gone, so if you look real close at it, it's pretty rough. For now, it looks a hell of a lot better than it did before. I also decided to do something different with the grille. You'll notice I don't have any large Nissan emblem in here like the other one. In fact, I decided to try grille inserts. Robert, the guy that I bought the other Titan from, the green/blue Titan, sent these along with me as part of the deal. He had them around, he didn't want to install them, and asked if I wanted them. I said, heck yeah. So I just went through and I chopped the emblem mount off, and then I installed these, and then I just decided to spray paint it so it matched the rest of the grille. I kind of like the way it turned out, but let me know what you think down below. Do you think this is better looking or worse looking than the Nissan emblem I did on the other Xterra? I went through and I did the rest of the plastics. So all the way down the side, instead of removing these, I know I talked about removing these side panels here, but I actually decided to paint them. Removing them is such a pain in the ass, and you have to take that eraser wheel and pull all the adhesive off and all of that, but this time I decided to just mask it off and paint it. Made my life a heck of a lot easier. Then of course on the back, did all the plastics back there to make sure that that's all matching and looks good. Nothing too special. And lastly, I got an exhaust. I made a post about this in the community, but I was gonna make a video. I even went and spent a whole bunch of money on a welder and got that all set up and tried my hand at it, but I was doing pretty well until I got to the point where the muffler was basically just butting up against the shock. And I was like, you know what, forget it. It's gonna be super frustrating bending all these pipes, getting it all to work the way I want it to. So I surrendered, I ran over to a muffler shop and I had them put in a full 3-inch exhaust from the Y pipe. So the Y pipe to a 3-inch and then 3-inch all the way back. And honestly, I think they did a great job. That was Muffler Man in Brighton, it was called. They were pretty great and they treated me really well. So if you're in the area, definitely check them out. I'll put them down in the description below. So when I first got it running and I had the brakes to a place where I didn't feel like I was gonna die, I drove it in the backyard. And when I did that, I made sure to go through and test all of the 4-wheel drive functions and everything that I had, well, everything that I had manually wired, right? So I can say with a high level of confidence that I got all of the wiring right, which is a pretty big deal. And I think obviously, you know, the release of the wiring video is evidence of that as well. But it was pretty nice. I went through and made sure everything worked. As far as driving it, it's kind of amazing, and it's only going to get better with a better set of wheels and tires. It hasn't been aligned yet, and I'm driving on tires that sort of look like they would explode if I ran over an acorn. It sounds fantastic. The acceleration is just nuts. It's just overall, it feels like a completely different SUV. As far as power is concerned, I could not be happier with the result. Now in retrospect, there's definitely things I would have done differently if I were doing it again or had to do it over. First and foremost, I would have gotten like the secondary work done first. And what I mean by that is the new suspension that I needed to put in, the brakes I needed to fix, the fact that it needed new wheels and tires. I would have done all of that first, because what ended up happening is I put all of this work in, I got the V8 in, and then I felt like I couldn't safely drive it after I did all of that work, which is also part of the reason this video is a week late, right? I was spending all last week getting everything else done, getting stuff ordered, getting all the pieces put in place. I would have had a better game plan for my cooling. That still isn't resolved. That's something that we'll be doing in the future. And I would have searched for and purchased the new tires ahead of time and had them here before the engine was put in. Speaking of before the engine was put in, I would have made a point to go pull the engine harness off of the Titan before pulling the engine. That would have given me a whole ton of time to nail down Brennan, send him the harness, have him, have ample time to do it and send it back to me before the engine makes it into the Xterra. And then other than that, I feel like I did a pretty decent job. There's not a whole lot more I would change. So what's coming up for the 8-ball? Well, first of all, of course, we're gonna get new rims and tires like we talked about, but we're also gonna create a separate video at some point about the cooling solution that I come up with. We can't leave it the way it is for very long. It's really not safe for the engine. Not that it's been terribly hot lately, but we don't wanna risk it. And once we do have it to a point where I feel good about it and it's like running well and I'm driving it around places, I do wanna go trail ride with this. So in Michigan, there's all kinds of ORV trails that you can bring full-size vehicles on. So I'd love to make some videos about that. Hopefully you guys would be into that. Down in the comments below, let me know. Is that something you'd be interested in seeing? So where do we go from here? We've done what, a lot of people in the Xterra community consider sort of the holy grail of Xterra jobs, but I still think there's plenty to do to both platforms. For instance, now this Xterra is a higher trim than my other one. So we have power windows, power locks, a lot more features. The whole fun slip and what's it called, VDC, we can work on that. So there's gonna be a lot more content coming on the Xterra platform. And of course, I replaced my Titan, right? So we have one sitting right there. It's gonna be ready for a whole slew of Titan videos as well. But as far as large scale projects are concerned, we have one more little guy that I wanna show you here. And that is this beast. This here is a 2007, I believe it's an SE. It's a 4-wheel drive, and it has an undisclosed amount of miles on it because it is in pretty rough shape and doesn't currently run. A viewer actually sent this to me for free. Jeffrey from Illinois sent this to me, so thanks, Jeffrey. I really appreciate you. And this one we're gonna do something a little bit different on. Now, it's gonna sound a little crazy, but stick with me. I'd love to go ahead and swap out the engine because this one is in pretty rough shape. And by pretty rough, I mean there's about half of it left in the engine bay, and even that half is pretty beat up. So I'm gonna get a replacement VQ40 in here, throw it in there. We're gonna get new rims and tires, of course, because those are shot. And we're gonna get it operational, get it going, get any maintenance that needs to get done. Then what I'd love to do is I'd love to actually chop off the top of this thing and make it like a convertible Xterra. It sounds crazy because it is, but I think it'd be really fun to make almost like a little dune buggy out of this. So take this whole section off, put in a whole roll cage, pull out all the carpeting, do like a rhino line or something on the bottom, maybe put a lift on it, get it up in the air, and just have some fun with it. Just do something that I've never done before, something totally crazy, and I think that would just be a lot of fun. I know it sounds insane, but the body's got, a lot of rust in it. Over here, there's, it's pretty damaged. It's just in rough shape. So I thought to myself, what can we do if we don't really care about the body and then we want to do something fun that you guys just want to follow along and see some wacky stuff happen. So that's the plan for that. Might not happen this season, that might be next year, but it's there, it's ready for us, and I think it'll be great. All in all, this has been an incredibly rewarding project. If I can confess something to you, I really only did this job because a lot of viewers were asking for a video series on it. I thought it would not only be an amazing addition to my library of videos, but I thought it would be super, super helpful to the Xterra community. Now that it's done and I get to drive it and it's my V8 Xterra, I couldn't be happier. Anyone who has an Xterra that might be on its way out or with a blown engine, and you have a nice set of tools at home, I would highly recommend doing this. It's not even fully buttoned up yet, and the V8 that I put in here is, although it's rebuilt, is fully stock. It already feels like a beast. But that's it, guys. Thank you so much for following along with me. I hope that this video series really helps you. If it does, be sure to scroll down, click subscribe, like the video if you liked it. If it saved you a bunch of time or money, go ahead and scroll down, buy me a beer, click that super thanks button. Till next time.